everyone, and welcome to the Knighted Ones podcast. This is the Genesis, episode 1 of the only podcast that features a former UCF National Champion, a former and older UCF radio host, and several podcasters shooting the breeze and talking UCF sports. So some of you know me from previous haunts. I had a radio show, and I was also part of a podcast called Nightline. Had several different iterations of shows for that, and excited to start a new journey with some new members of the team. So without further ado, I'm going to start introductions. The first person that I'm going to bring in suffered through the 2015 season, grew in the 2016 season, and was a natty champion in 2017. He's part of the reason that we have the natty champions across the tower. So welcome to the show, Trey Neal. Super happy to have you join us with this. Excited to see you, and welcome.
Absolutely, man. Glad we could start this back up, man. I'm excited to talk some more ball about my guys, man.
Yeah, that's right. Super excited too. To join us with that, we've got Mr. Pop That Collar, Josh Lazar. He might have a popped collar, he might not. It depends on the stiffness of his shirt. He also wears pink shirts, so you never know what you're going to get week to week. But he is a master of the fashion game. So welcome, Josh Lazar.
Hey, this is a flop back collar. This just goes in.
Is that what it is? It's a flop back.
Yeah, it's the nothing. But this is probably a decade-old UCF shirt. This, I think, is like original. Like, oh, we're having a new logo, and it still fits. That's wonderful.
You need to talk to our boy Rob. I think he has some medicine for those kind of floppy collar problems. So, yeah. He'll be joining us. He'll be joining us throughout the season as well. And then last but certainly not least, a man who knows college football. You guys probably all follow him. It's Alan Levin. Welcome, Alan, to the show. Super excited to have you join us for this and do it with us, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Happy to be here. Pumped up. Let's go Knights.
Charge on. Okay, so it's football season. All of us are super excited about it. I don't know how many of you, Alan is down south. I don't know if he's making it up for this game. I know Josh will be there. Trey, I know you try to make it up for games. You're in South Florida as well. I am in North Florida, so I split the difference and came down anyways. So I will be there for the game for our very first Big 12 game. It isn't a Big 12 showdown because it's not in conference, but it's still our first game in the now Power 4. For most of you that have been following realignment madness this summer, and super excited about it. So let's talk about the season. It starts on Thursday, so a couple days, couple sleeps, as we like to say, away, and that's going to kick off with Kent State. So let's talk about the season as a whole to start, right? So I'd like to hear what your guys' keys to this season are. We've got a lot of folks that are returning. We've got a quarterback that's going to be returning who's, now quote unquote experienced, right? We've got a lot of wide receiver talent that transferred in, Javad Baker, all those guys. So they've got a year under their belt in our system, but some differences, right? So we've got a new offensive coordinator who, was a UCF quarterback at one time. So he's kind of popped around. Was it Kentucky? Was it UAB? Was successful there. And now he's here with us. So have some changes there. The defensive side of the ball, also a familiar name, but a new coordinator as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how that affects everything. If our defense is the same, what our philosophy is. Last year, our philosophy was basically, hey, we got 4 down linemen. Let's get after the quarterback. Weren't always successful with that. And, let's face it, last season we had a lot of injuries. So it was kind of up and down. We had some really, really high highs and some disappointing Navy games. So Tulane was a perfect example of that, right? If you watch the first game, it was like, okay, we're going to run over Tulane. Unfortunately, I went to the championship game last year, which was the second game, which was not as fun. But they did have dollar beers, so I will say that's how I made it through that game. And again, I made the mistake. I went to the I won't call it a mistake. I went to Navy Marine Corps Stadium to watch us play Duke. It was freezing. It was literally, I flew in, went to the liquor store with some of my friends. We tailgated for a little bit, watched the game, and then I was on a flight back home. So thankfully, because it was not fun watching that game either. So we're hoping this season the injury bug doesn't hit. So with all that being said, for you guys, what are the keys to 2023? And then also, what do we consider a successful season? Like what is a successful season? And how do you feel about the Big 12? Trey, we'll start with you since you're at the top.
Yeah, I think the obvious one is definitely getting through the season healthy. I think that last year in that championship game, we had key guys not healthy that could have been playing, mostly JRP. I think if he's healthy, able to use his legs and extend some plays and just be the playmaker he was, I think we have a different outcome. But that's neither here nor there. I think him coming back, being his second year, I think he should take a jump, in my opinion. This past year, he had just converted from wide receiver at Ole Miss to quarterback this year. So he was just kind of knocking the rust off a little bit. Now he's going into his second offseason where he's actually a quarterback, the second offseason to build that chemistry with the receivers. You mentioned Javon Baker and those guys coming back another year to get that familiarity. And that's pretty much what it is at that position, just repetitions with each other, things like that. So I think, in my opinion, seeing that next step, I don't know what that next step is. Just we have a new OC. I don't know how much Gus has his fingers on it. I don't know if he's just, giving it to him. You say one thing, I don't know, in the locker room, you might get another one. So we'll see. I think that's going to be the key, just to see how that little meshes up with Gus and the new OC, and then JRP for offense and defensively. Again, same thing. We have a new DC. For the most part, things are going to stay the same, but there might be small tweaks here or there that, the average eye might not see. But, as we go on through the season, I'll be able to point them out and say, hey, this is what they did differently compared to last year that's successful, or, hey, this is what they did differently last year that's not good, and I think those are the really the only changes when you see a new DC that's brought in, old DC leaves and they just kind of elevate somebody that's already been here. It'll be small tweaks, and most of the time it's to favor those kind of things that the old DC might not see, and he might be able to tweak some of those things. So those are the keys, I think, just the continuity with the receivers and JRP, and then what do each coordinator and on offense and defense, what do they tweak up a little bit?
Cool. Yeah, there's some storylines there that we'll talk about here next. But let's go ahead and bring Josh in. Josh, what do you think? What are the keys to the 2023 season?
Well, I have to agree with Trey. And I put down healthy, wealthy, and wise. So healthy. Have to start with health. We want everyone who's playing this game to be as healthy as they can be. We know the realities of football, but exactly. We've had some years, not just last year. There's been a couple of years in the last decade where, like, if we only had blank.
Decade, last 20 years, dude.
Yeah. We can keep going back, but not everyone here was there when we took down goalposts because we beat Marshall after losing 17 in a row. Wealthy is not just paid, and Jim Harbaugh had some great notes about being paid and student athletes earlier this week, but I'm talking picks, and something Trey knows well, right? I think we need to be really good on the defensive side with getting turnovers. I know that everyone says that, right? But I feel like this offense is going to be so powerful that the more we get it to them, the better we'll be. And for the week 0, they did some analysis, and there was about 4 to 5 less plays because of the running clock right after you get a first down. So if you have less plays coming in, the more you can get the ball back from the defense. I think it's going to be possibly even more important this year, perhaps. And wise, and it's partly of the successful part, just don't beat yourself. And we've seen these, right? And maybe a new offensive coordinator changes that. Maybe experience, right, changes that. But let's, not throw a trick play in 3rd and 1. We have RJ Harvey, right? Just being very smart with the ball. I think that's going to change a bit with everyone in the system.
Hold on. We could have had RJ Harvey on 3rd down like we did last season. He's just throwing to JRP.
That's also true.
That's traumatic.
Yeah, but there's, I think we're going to see how much influence Gus Malzahn has on the offense based off of some of the things that are really cool when you see them maybe in Madden, but not when your heart's beating in the stands, right? That's just my thought. So healthy.
Now hold on. Let's go back to Trey's era and going bone. I mean, what was it? We were like, what, on the 30? Mackenzie Milton's like, no, don't do this. And Josh Heupel's like, we're going bone.
Go for it.
Yeah,
I mean, at some point, you got to trust your team, right, to make it happen.
True, but it seemed that was an exception and not a rule. Like in the Frost era, I mean, we were going for 2 after touchdowns a little more often too, and I think that was the philosophy of getting ahead.
It's a mentality. It's a mentality. Yeah.
I just feel like past precedent on a Gus Malzahn offense that has happened a lot. And I'm not saying Wise isn't do those things. I think it's just, protecting the ball as much as possible. And that's just my opinion, right? But yeah, I loved when Frost would go for 2 at the beginning of the game to go up 8-0. I mean, I think that there's some interesting things. I don't think that happened for a long time. It definitely happened a while, and I'm sure there's some statistical analysis of why that is probably a pretty decent idea.
Well,
yeah,
I mean, you're gonna
that stuff's the statistical part is above my my pay grade, I'd say. But I mean, I remember he would just tell us that, it just kind of sets the tone. That's where when I was saying mentality, it sets the tone like, hey, we're getting this extra point. Like, we're going for 2 every time. It kind of catches the defense off guard. It catches the team off guard, which it just messes with their head a little bit. And it is those small little games that kind of can tip the balance sometimes at the end.
Well, it's another rep too, right? So you got, you've got 7 of those, depending on some of these games that we were playing during the Frost era, right? You've got 7 extra reps just off of that. And the whole point was to wear out the defense. I mean, you run quick plays, you spread them out, you get a lot of movements. So they're having to move formations all the time. They're not getting settled. And, you're wearing them out by making them run sideline to sideline. And that's why, at the beginning of the game, defenses, typically held tight, and we used same set, multiple looks, so that they didn't know which one we were going to run when we were tipping for a big one, right? So there was a lot of gamesmanship going on during the Frost years as far as that was concerned.
And I even remember during those years, every week for our 2-point conversion, we had the base field goal, and we had our base we call it swinging gate, where all the linemen are lining up. But we installed a fake every week, a different fake. If we put a fake out, we didn't run it anymore. And we'd install a new one. So that was one of the 2-point conversions. You could never prepare for it. Because you didn't know. You could say, oh, they ran that last week. Well, we're not going to run it again. We're going to come out with something different, and you're not going to know how to prepare for it unless you are very sound in your defense. And what we found out was a lot of guys, especially after giving up the touchdown, they're mad. That's the perfect time. Go get them. They're mad. They're not going to be sound. So,
yeah.
So maybe the keys are to wise up and keep doing that stuff. No.
Right. I think Roger froze there.
That might be why. Alan, why don't you take over? Because I know you're up next on this. game of this.
Yeah. So my keys to the season, I kind of have three things. I mean, one is the offensive line. We have three new guys coming in, three guys graduated or transferred. So we have three new starters on the offensive line, which for me, I've talked to O-linemen on my podcast and they've all talked about how important their chemistry is. So, I think them gelling is going to be a huge factor. And if we're to believe, this new, Darren Hinshaw, our new OC, is going to change the offense a little bit and air it out more. And JRP is going to be running less and kind of staying in the pocket more. I think his protection, protecting him is absolutely key. So that's kind of the first thing. And then for me, does JRP improve? I mean, we saw a really up and down year last year. I mean, he had 11 touchdowns, led the team in rushing, but on the flip side, we didn't really have a great vertical threat. I mean, we were top 10 in the country in rushing yards, but I think 57 or 58 in passing yards. So the whole thing with Hinshaw coming in was that we were going to be more than just a one-dimensional offense and be able to air it out a little bit more. So for me, that kind of hinges on the O-line and JRP improving and being able to air it out and get it to our talented receivers like Baker, like Hudson, like Townsend and all them. So I think that, and then kind of what Trey was saying with the new OC, new DC, does Hinshaw make those changes to the offense to make us less one-dimensional and make us more of a vertical threat? And then defensively, are we a little bit more aggressive? I mean, we saw like a lot of times the secondary, the DBs were kind of 10 yards off their receivers last year. So for me, Addison Williams has come in and said he's going to work on being, trying to produce more turnovers and be more aggressive on that front. So, like, last year, I think we only had 6 picks the entire season. I mean, DeCorian Patterson, who's coming in from Middle Tennessee State, had 7 picks. So he had more than our entire team last year by himself. Yeah. So for me, I think we got to produce more turnovers because we know the Big 12 is an offensive league. And, these guys are going to get their points. They're going to get their yards. So kind of like when you played, Trey, I think we need to be a little bit more bend, don't break. We gave up some yards, but we would get some timely turnovers. And that changes the complexion of the game for me. So we got to get some more fumbles. We got to get some more picks. And, I think we have the talent to do that. We may give up some yards and things like that, but we just got to be a little more aggressive there because these Big 12 offenses are no joke.
Yeah. And that's kind of like what you were saying. At this point in football, I mean, it's 2023. It's not, the 90s where you see those 100-yard games. Almost everybody can get yards.
Yep.
If you're a good enough team, these guys have been playing in spreads now since they're in middle school. They live and die by it. So it's one of those things where you're going to give up yards. You're going to give up chunk plays. It's, like you said, it's bend, don't break. You want to be good. Kind of just my thing that I've learned just over my time was just you want to be good on third downs and you want to be good in the red zone. Mm-hmm. All the other things, the offensive game now, you don't really want to – of course you don't want to give up yards, but you're not going to really sweat that. But if you can be good on third down and good in the red zone, most of the time you're going to be a really, really, really good defense. And I think that's the best thing you can ask for, especially with, you can't target anymore, can't hit the quarterback, you can't hit these. That's really all you can ask for is to be good on those situations. And like you said, I think that's what they have to do. They have to get more aggressive too because, I mean, if we're going to see 70 points per each team games, what's going to be the difference? It's going to be the team that turns the ball over once. I mean, to reference the NFL, the reason I think at least that the Eagles lost was because the Jalen Hurts fumble. And he played phenomenal the entire game. But that one fumble that got returned for a touchdown was the difference. Yeah, and I think that's just how football is now. So you have to be a lot more optimistic and opportunistic on defense, getting turnovers. Especially, me being a DB, go get interceptions, man. That's where you make your money right there.
Absolutely. I mean, you saw it in your year. We got so many, and that 17 year, we got so many timely picks, whether it was you or Hughes or some of these guys. And just last year, it wasn't happening. I mean, I hate to say it, but even like Devad Wilson last year, who had half of the picks last year, had 3 out of the 6. Exactly. A lot of those were just like tip balls and not really like, it was kind of just more like lucky. I mean, not to take away.
Yeah, they fall into you.
Yeah, there was no really like picking a route or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I think we just got to improve that way. And they got 5 DB transfers in. So and then Gus has been recruiting the secondary hard with these last 2 classes between Nakai Martinez and the Henderson twins. And then we have Braden Marshall, who saw he's going to be, backup, I think, nickel. So, we got some guys there. It's just, putting it all together this year under Addison Williams.
Exactly. And I think, just having that infusion of different type of bodies, different type of talent, I think Gus is, like you said, he's hit it hard because it brews good competition. I think that 2017 season, we competed hard every day. I mean, we used to say the hardest part was the practices during the week. Like it wasn't, just going against each other. We used to have our DB chart where it like tracks interceptions, pass breakups, forced fumbles, because we knew that's what wins games as defense. Like as a defense, we want to be good on third down, but we want to go get the ball. Like if we can get up, the ball in McKenzie Milton's hands one extra time, two extra times a game,
good.
We know the magic that's going to happen. Exactly, and I think that's the same thing that they have to have with GRP going into that second year. And I think that's why I was saying like that continuity is huge. I think that if they can have that confidence and be like, hey, this man's he's cooking, like we got to get him the ball back. So because it just makes your job easier. Being up by 7 is a totally different play call script. Being up by 21,
right.
Being up by 28, you can tee off the D line, can tee off a little bit more. The DBs can, become more aggressive. And I think that's going to be the key. Like you said, it's definitely being more aggressive and getting turnover. And not only on the tips and overthrows, which, those are the gimme ones.
Right.
When you go get the ball and you see it in the air, don't just try to swat it. Like, go make a play. Like, that's what – and that's every position, That's where even if the quarterback, you see, he's hanging the ball loose as a D lineman, go get the ball. Don't just go tackle him. Get the ball out. Those are the kind of the key things that take you from a good defense to, like, a great defense,
right.
especially in this age of football.
So what is I think one other question Roger asked was, what is a successful, kind of first season here in the Big 12 look like versus a failure? Mm-hmm. So Josh, you want to start off?
Sure. So it should be the same for the team every year, right? Win a championship. But I only one of us right here has been on the team, right? So I have that fan perspective, and to me, it might be couching it might be minimal, but what I was thinking about this was no more cardiac nights. I don't want a game that is down to the last 15 seconds for 10 games, right?
Yeah.
Let's just get some solid wins and see how we do. I do think Boise might be that litmus test, both in travel and in elevated competition, but that's my first instinct is let's win as many as possible, and let's not lose any like last minute games. And Trey might have like flashbacks of 2015 too, right?
Yeah.
My win total, I put A+. I want to be realistic. There's only there's only 2 times ever we went undefeated in a regular season, right? And most teams have a loss. Like there's very rarely a undefeated team. It happens, but it doesn't happen often, and it's usually one team. So being realistic, I'm thinking 8 wins sounds perfectly fine. I mean, would I love more as a fan? Sure. Do I expect a 4-win season? Probably not. But I agree with you, Alan. And I didn't add this to my keys, but you are 100% right. I think it's going to depend on how well that offensive line either gels or if Herb Hand gets to really rotate people in, because he was not a fan of that per se. But if you look at the depth chart, the people who are not starting have started, right, and have been around.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, so it's pretty deep. So I really think that I don't think it's an unrealistic fan expectation to see 7-8+ wins. I think that's reasonable. But I hope they're competing every day and every week in and out for a championship. We'll see what happens. We are going up in a conference in level, and every year we do that. We're all right, but it's not like we're winning every single year, right? So,
Trey, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just the player in me, I expect to win every game. I don't think there was ever a season where before the year we didn't think we could win every game that was on the schedule. I mean, a lot of these schedules are planned so far out. You kind of gauge. You always know the conference guys you're going to play, and then you're out of conference kind of stuff. It's rare where you
Right.
kind of get that out of conference game that year. So we kind of already know. And then again, we've been working on so many of these games over the summer, watching film over the summer. Like, I expect to win every game. Now I take my former player hat off, and I put my my non-biased just a UCF fan hat on. I'm with you. I think 8 games, 9 games is feasible. I think that's actually reasonable to expect because, yeah, we're making the Big 12 jump, but we've already been recruiting, in my opinion, at a higher level than the past. For the past three cycles with Gus, at least. So I think we've been reeling in some really, really solid players. And then again, you add in the transfer portal, which, I mean, that's just a free-for-all now. We've gotten really good players in that too. So I don't think it's going to be one of those things where, you see some of these teams go, for example, to the SEC, and it takes them 3-4 years to kind of build up and recruit. I don't think we should expect that. I think we're in a recruiting hotbed. We've been recruiting at a high level for the past, like I said, 2 to 3 years. I expect us to be able to go in and beat some of these Big 12 teams because I've already thought we were better than some of these Big 12 teams. I've already thought that, going in, we should be in that top half of the league. We're going to have, those games, like you said, the cardiac night kind of stuff. I think that's just almost like our MO. But like you said, I think that's the next step to be that top 25 program, the perennial top 25, top 10 program is, handle the business of the teams you should beat them handedly. You don't want them hanging in. And then when you're supposed, just handle what you're supposed to do. So I think 9 wins is a good first year. And then just be in every game, make it competitive. You don't want to get blown out of any game. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me. You don't want it to be like, man, we were just outmatched. Because I don't think anybody in the Big 12 should overwhelm us with just from a talent perspective and how we're bringing guys back. I don't think that's the case. So I think 9 wins, at least in my opinion, 8 to 9 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have necessarily like a set win total, but for me, what would be a successful year would be, one, I would like to have a better record than any of the Big 12 newcomers. I think that makes us look good if we can have a better win total than Cincy, BYU, and Houston. Secondly, we got to make a bowl game. So I guess we have to have at least 6 wins there. So I think that's important. And then, I was going to say, I don't want to be blown out. I want to look outclassed where you start having the haters or the media being like, oh, they made a mistake bringing them in. We're losing by 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. So if we can stay competitive in every single game and look good and, maybe a few slip by and we don't win some tough ones on the road against like K-State or Oklahoma, but we look good. The talent's only building, like you said. So, and we have a really senior heavy team and we got a bunch of nice transfers and, incoming freshmen. So I think we're recruiting at a level to be competitive and a lot of media has us, in the top half. So I think if we're at like 6 to 9 wins and we beat out the record wise to all the other new Big 12 teams and make a bowl game and look competitive and maybe pull off like one big upset. Maybe it's the Oklahoma against DG or it's Kansas State. That would be a successful season to me. I mean, I'm not expecting to come in and, beat Texas in the Big 12 championship or whomever, Oklahoma, TCU. But our schedule, I think, sets up nicely. I mean, we avoid TCU, we avoid Texas. So I don't think there's any reason why we can't get 6 to 9 wins, make a bowl game and, look competitive doing so.
Yeah, I agree. 1,000% agree.
All right, cool. So, so we talked about the keys. We talked about some that what would be a successful versus a failure of a year. But today, let's talk the depth chart today dropped. There was a few surprises. I think a lot of it was pretty spot on. There definitely I saw some position areas that were fairly surprising, maybe more so as some of the backups that I was surprised by and a couple of the starters, but not like too many major surprises. So what did you guys think of the depth chart that was released today for the 2 deep?
I give you my first instinct. First of all, I'm a Walter Yates fan. I have been all last year. I know he wasn't solid. He was solid. Let me make sure I state that. But he wasn't there all the time. I don't believe he was starting last year. And the first thing I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, Xavier Townsend. We kind of heard some rumors, and that's intriguing, and I'm sure he earned it. But just kind of the fan of me is like every single time I saw Yates get in that game last year, he's hitting people. All right,
Yeah.
he always came up, always looked sharp. So I mean, probably not what you're getting at, I'm sure, Alan. But when I saw that just I saw this when I was walking my dog, and just kind of made me smile. So that was part of it. The interesting, I assumed this was going to happen. You talk about Nakai Martinez and the Henderson twins too. I was slightly shocked that the Henderson twins, not one of them is starting yet. They will be in games, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But to me, it kind of shows how good Martinez really is, and I have a feeling that's going to continue. But I also I was a little surprised we have RJ Harvey, right, running back, and then 4 people who could be in second place. That kind of jumped off of, and it could either be we want to make sure no one leaves, or they're all that good. And I really think, I'm sure there's some bit of it that let's make sure they keep them around. Mm-hmm. But to me, a big part of it is that running back room is deep, and even Trey, in your times, we were really deep.
Oh yeah.
We were deep. We were deep, and so there's definitely some things I'm like, okay, Bulla's a 6'1" guard. There's not one guard I can state that's under 6'4", right? But there's a reason you won that, right? And versus Collins and Medley been around, right? So some of the things are interesting to me, just not in the statistical things. The first 2 instincts was this running back room is as deep as we thought it was. I love Walter Yates, and I want to see him. I want to see him excel as he did last year, even when he wasn't in all the time. And there's a couple things, and good job Xavier Townsend for taking that spot. I with how pretty deep that looks like in a wide receiver room. Great job.
All right, so I'm assuming we're under the roster breakdown section, so I switched that out. I'm working off a mobile hotspot because Xfinity can't figure out how to do internet. I'm working remote this week for 2 weeks, so I'm not on my home internet. I am plugged in directly to the modem, but apparently it's upstream. So if I'm lagging a little bit, you know why. Technical issues. But how far did we make it? How far did we make it? Are we on roster breakdown, strengths and weaknesses? I mean, what positions have we covered other than running backs?
Yeah, we just started. We were just more talking about the depth chart being released today and what the surprises were, and we haven't really got into a position by position breakdown yet.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I only missed like 20 minutes, so great. All right, so Trey, I think you were getting ready to say something. Sorry, I didn't mean to break in. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew I was.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to go what you just said too. I thought the running back position, I was like, or like, oh my goodness. Like, we all knew, I think going in, RJ Harvey was going to be the guy now that, I forgot his name, Bowser left. He showed a lot. I mean, last year he looked like it was a 1A, 1B kind of thing. So, once he kind of got the deck to himself, we knew he'd be the lead man. But, we've been hearing the hype of the DeMarcus Bowman, and he was a talented guy coming out. We need the hype about, Jordan McDonald. We already know Johnny Richardson. And then, I think just seeing that, to me, it was like, okay, we have a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different guys who can play. And I think that just shows kind of a versatility in that room. I think they can go a little smash mouth if you want. They want to get a little bit more finesse, a little bit more explosive. They can do that if they want. I think that's what I took away from the twos. I think RJ gives you all of that. And I think a lot of those guys, they're not necessarily specialists, but they might have strengths in certain areas where the others of the twos don't. So that was my first thing. And then, of course, I went straight to the defense when we looked and just saw the, go see the DB, see how those guys are doing. And again, I saw, I was hearing that Kai Martinez was having a really good spring. And then, of course, he had a really good camp. And last year, I think he was the star or a nickel for the Just a Comment. He was a nickel for us. But yeah, him moving to safety and taking that spot is good. And again, I was talking about the Henderson twins last year, how explosive they look. I think it was a Temple game when I first kind of saw them. They were just explosive kids as again, 18-year-olds. That's hard to do just to go play college football, as an 18-year-old kid. Just see them on the depth chart as twos. Again, I think defense is very different to where you need to have capable bodies, not just as starters, but as your backups. You're only as good, in my opinion, as your backups are on defense. Because again, injuries happen. We don't wish any injuries on anybody, but you want your twos to be just as good as your ones. That's how we always trained it. That's how we always practiced it. We took the same amount of reps throughout game week. We took the same amount of we got the same looks. We watched the same amount of film. So they were just as ready as we were. We just at the time got the opportunity. And most of the time when they came in, it was like there was no difference. And I think having that kind of camaraderie is what you need. And I think that's what they're breeding there. So I don't really look too much defensively, at least in the back end. If you make the two deep, you're a fully capable starter. We've got to the point where we can recruit well. We have depth. We don't really have sanctions of scholarship shortages. We have a full allotted scholarship, and Gus has had 3 years now to kind of fill his roster. So now this is his team. These guys are recruited and they're ready for him to play. So those are the two that I noticed was definitely the depth of the running back room and, seeing the Henderson twins in the two deep, and then Braden Marshall. I've been talking to one of the guys that was training him throughout high school. He's like, he's gonna be a stud, and that's what I was hearing a lot. So you're gonna see, I think, a lot in Kent State. Not to overlook an opponent, but we should beat them. So I think we're gonna be able to see those guys kind of stay fresh and see a lot of the guys on the depth chart.
All right, let's be real. We are going to overlook Kent State. We're
fans.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm already on Boise. Boise's on my brain, right? So I'm going there for the show on Thursday. I'm not going there for any kind of anticipation or being antsy or any of that other stuff. I'm going there to see big hitters and see our 2 deep and 3 deep and see how they play against Division I football. Now, it wasn't always that way, right? UCF has a history with Kent State. So, in fact, the series is 2-2, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we're Power 4 now, boys. So
that's very Power 4 of you.
Yeah, we're Power 4 now. So these are the teams you look past, right? So other than whether we'll play it or not due to the weather. So all right. Alan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, 3 positions jumped off the depth chart for me. The number one surprise to me actually was DB. I was really shocked to see we had 5 transfers come over and only one of them landed a starting job in Jordan Mask from Texas State. I was really surprised to see Thornton and Adams retain their role. There had been Thornton didn't have a great year last year, but he's seemingly every year they always say he's going to get benched, and he seemingly has beat out like 50 guys in the last 4 years to keep his cornerback job. But I was surprised to see Patterson from Middle Tennessee, not land a starting role. He's already getting like 1st-round draft hype. So I was just interested to see that, we had 5 DB transfers, yet pretty much all of them retained their roles from last year outside of DeJordan Mass. That would jump me off the page. And then wide receiver, I was really surprised not to see Corey Gamage not make the 2 deep. I know he may be dealing with like an injury or still learning the playbook from what I've heard, but he had a lot of hype coming over from Marshall, led them in receiving last year. And I don't really find our wide receivers to be as deep as like the roster that Trey was on, for example. So for him not to get a 2 deep role really surprised me. And then to see Gerard Baker make the 2 deep, that was cool. He had back-to-back season-ending injuries, an ACL tear, and I think he popped his Achilles. So for him to come back from that as a senior and make the 2 deep was interesting. And then to also see Trent Whitmore kind of be the co-starter with Kobe Hudson, who was the clear cut, he had the most touchdowns on the team last year. I was a little shocked by that. So some wide receivers, outside of Baker, there was a little surprises there because, just not seeing Gamage and then some of these guys that made the 2 deep. So that was number 2. And then the other big surprise for me was Bula Schmidt, who at Fresno State had been a center for 4 years. So for him to move to left guard, I don't know how hard or easy that is. But, he's 6'1", which I feel is a little small for a left guard, and he's historically played center. So to have him just move over to guard, I thought was maybe just something, hey, we're going to play our best 5 players at O-line, but that kind of stuck out to me. So, and between that, and then I would say 5 freshmen made the 2 deep, true freshmen. So that was more than last year. So I thought that was really cool to see that some of these 4 stars are already getting some love. John Walker, obviously, Kevin Call, some of these guys. So, but DB definitely jumped out to me the most.
Yeah. And I will say that with so many freshmen getting into the 2 deep, I think that's going to also help with recruiting. Not like we need that much more help, it seems, right now. But when these upcoming new UCF Knights see that, you can beat out incumbents. You can get on the 2 deep as a freshman. And not only do we say it, look at the proof that you can do this. I think that also will help too. I noticed that too when I didn't pop it in. But yeah, it's nice to see because we're in this transfer portal era, right? Name, image, likeness, and transfer order portal era, and we're still seeing a good amount of freshmen get on a 2 deep. I think that was wonderful to see.
Yeah. So so you guys all had several different points I kind of want to pick up on. So as far as the 2 deep and freshmen, right, making it, think about this. Last season, I think we had 15 high school recruits. We only had 15.
Yeah.
Right. Most people have 23, 24. So your hit rate, if you've got them in the 2 deep, has got to be pretty high, and they've got to be some pretty special players. If that's the case, right? Normally, a recruiting class is going to be 21 to 23. Also means that if you look at the roster, there's a lot of 5th-year seniors, redshirt seniors, redshirt juniors, 5th-year players. So we had one of the deepest, I think we have the deepest as far as senior Latin teams in the Big 12 this year, by far. We had like 60-some seniors.
Our whole team is, our whole starting lineup is seniors, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah. So now think about that. That's great. That also means there's a lot of transfers on there that are jumping in. A few things that kind of jumped out on the cornerbacks for me. You mentioned Brandon Adams, right? I was looking at all this stuff and I was like, well, you look at it, we're kind of, we're kind of prioritizing length. That being said, the one that surprised me the most, not just DeCorian Patterson, but Fred Davis, the Clemson transfer. That was the guy. That was the guy. Like, that was the guy I was expecting to start. Yeah, he had an ACL as well, so I don't know. Last year he kind of recovered for that, got some playing time there. So I expected Fred Davis, not just is he a big kid, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, but he's very talented. When he was I think a 4, almost 5-star coming out of high school, and he made the roster and played as a sophomore, and then hurt himself in the sophomore, had to sit out his junior year, and now he's here with us as a senior. But what's interesting is it doesn't say red shirt senior. So I don't know if we have him more than 1 year or not. But that also means that all these 2024 and 2025 kids that we're out here recruiting, they're going to get playing time as soon as they're coming in, right? So the guys that you see, they kind of almost have to play the freshmen because they then become the experienced guys, because you're going to have to rely on a lot of freshmen next year, right? Unless we stay in this cycle. And I don't think Gus really wants to do that. No. So, that was really interesting. The other thing that, from listening to the coaches, and again, coach speak is coach speak, right? However, what kind of stuck out to me from the interviews from camp was Herb Hand saying, hey, I've got a O-line where I feel like I'm comfortable rotating an entire O-line for another O-line, right? And you don't ever hear that. That means he's really comfortable with that depth. There was no reason for him to say that unless he truly felt that. Normally it's, I got some dogs, or, whatever. I feel good. I can rotate people in and out, or whatever. But I mean, honestly, I do think we did get an upgrade over last year's O-line. And I hate to say that because I know a lot of the guys on that team, and they were really good. And a lot of them are playing in the NFL, although a couple of them, Cole Schneider and Sam Jackson, both got let go, but they're expected to be picked up in the NFL, right? But that's what surprised me. But then you guys are talking about the running back room. You got Tavion Swift committed. You've got all these other guys that are coming down the pipeline. The one area that I am worried now, and at the end of last year, I would have told you linebackers and DBs. That's what I was harping, right? I feel pretty good about DBs. I feel really good about linebackers. I feel really, really, really good about D-line. I'm good with our receivers. I'm good with our O-line. Honestly, the thing that has me worried is QB. Right? We know that Henshaw is going to, he's going to throw the ball. So hopefully that takes some snaps off of JRP's shoulders. They've been talking about it all camp. I expect them to go along with it a lot more, which means hopefully he's not trying to put his shoulder down, running over people. He's not Blake Bortles. It would be like Mackenzie Milton whenever I see him put his shoulder down, and it's like, Kenzie, stop it. Right? Just just slide, bro. Like, do the baseball slide. You know what I mean? Do something. Exactly. Don't try to roll people over. We all know you're brave, but when you're going up against a 245, 250-pound linebacker, Mackenzie Milton's 5'10", 180 soaking wet. You can't roll that person over. It's like when Ocho Cinco tried to roll over Ray Lewis and he blocked him and he just fell over. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. It's just
physics. It's just physics.
Exactly. So JRP, please stop trying to run into the dump trucks. Please stop trying to jump over people as much, right? Because I don't know if you guys remember this game, but was like third or fourth game in, he tries to jump over the pile. Ends up, he was heading straight down on his head, straight down on his head and neck. He was up there. And then the guy from the opposing team hit him. I think it was like FAU or something. Hit him and knocked him lateral so he didn't fall on his neck. We don't need them to do that this season. You've got receivers. From what everybody's saying, he's spinning a much better ball. His ball placement's a lot better. Again, could be camp speak. But I'm really hoping that that's the case, because if it is, I've heard Henshaw's done a lot of work with him on foot placement. And another thing I found out from someone who was on the team last year, JRP was not allowed to make reads. So everybody was saying, why is he going to the first read or running the ball? He wasn't allowed to. So epiphany for all of you that were out there yelling at him, including myself, like, why aren't you reading the field? There's a reason, and the reason was he was told he was not allowed to do that. So he had one check down, one read, one check down. That's it.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, especially the way he was playing. We talked about it a lot last year, Roger, just like, it doesn't look like he's going through his progressions. Why is he not going through his progressions? And that makes sense. If he was told, you got one read, check down, or use your legs, I think that's what he was doing. And I think that's also why he kind of takes those kind of risks, like you're mentioning, running over linebackers and trying to hurdle over guys. I think the next step in his progression as a quarterback will be not doing those things because you don't have to, just go. Now you can go through your reads, go through your progressions, because the thing about defense is we always give something up. We want to stop something, but there's always a weakness to every defense, and the good quarterbacks will find that weakness every play. And I think that's what his next step is just, hey, sometimes you don't have to just, one read and run out. If you go through your next 2-3 progressions, somebody's open. And I think if he can make that step, like you said, I think that elevates everything, and I think that also protects him in a sense, from those hits. It protects him from taking crazier risks.
O-lineman, right? I think this year's O-line is going to be better if they can gel. That's the only problem I see with this, because we got 3 pieces that we had to replace. So if they've got the O-lineman and they've got the blocking schemes, because their pass blocking was terrible last year. And that was, everybody was asking about Jay Rich and Johnny Richardson, why he was being held back. He was held back because he couldn't block on the pass plays.
Yep.
He was too small and he couldn't even chop block. I like Johnny Richardson.
That makes a lot of sense.
He's great. Shifty. You get him open in space, game over, right? But as a running back, you have to be able to block. That's hard to do if you're 5'7".
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look at –
they just got to use him situationally.
Yeah. I mean, think about Otis Anderson, right? So, like, even Otis Anderson, he knew how to use his size.
Yep, exactly.
Right? But you look at and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank now, the really speedy running back that was on your team, on the 2020 team. Adrian Killen, AK. Yeah. Yeah. AK, he wasn't great at blocking on the pass downs, right?
Nope.
Otis did a great job on that. So, rest in peace, Otis. But, he did a great job on that stuff. And that's what Jay Rich has got to do better if he's going to do that, right? Because they'd had to put Bowser in.
Yeah. That it becomes a tendency, like you're saying. Like, if we know you can't pass block, and Malzahn, if you wanted to get him on the field and he's not pass blocking him, well, that's an automatic tendency. Like, hey, it's either he's getting the ball or he's running a route. Those are tendencies that you pick up on, that they look for. So if you can't pass block, then either we're going to send, they call it dog, where they just blitz them and make them pass block, which you can't do it. So now you're messing up the quarterback. Those are tendencies that defenses pick up on, and that's why you have to he can't play if you can't pass block, because you're going to get your quarterback killed or you're going to get somebody killed.
I'm interested to see DeMarcus Bowman in that kind of area, because he has that speed, but he has a little bit more height and weight to him. So if he can, that would be interesting. I might have to now I have something to think about when I'm watching the game on Thursday.
Exactly.
Well, and timing, right? That's the other thing. It's not just if they get to the quarterback. We used to call it Wolfpack in high school. We took it a step further. Whenever we called Wolfpack, we'd actually shift one gap. So we were in between the gaps and then bull rush. Whatever set we were in, didn't matter what formation we were in, we'd call that. And defenses know that. And they will 100% do it, because it's not just about, okay, did you get to the quarterback, but did you mess up the timing? Because it's all about timing with receivers and making sure they have the time to do what they need to do. So, all right, we're getting to what we're looking forward to and kind of breaking down the game already. So let's kind of shift gears. I think we've did we get enough on the roster and what? I mean, yeah, I'm loving our D-line, man. I can't wait to see them hit some people. I was going to use something else. Trey and I talk about this all the time. I played defense. You wouldn't know it now from how small I am. But I played defense too, and there's no better feeling than hitting and laying somebody out. And as a D lineman, we really got some dogs. Josh Seliskar, right? He actually played really, really well last year. He just was wore out, right? Because every single play we had was a blitz play. You got Malachi Lawrence backing him up, redshirt sophomore. That was a big name in the last recruiting class, right? Caven Call, freshman, 6'3", 240. That's a pretty good sized defensive end.
Big boy.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle, you got Lee Hunter. Now, the thing about Lee Hunter, he's a redshirt sophomore, 6'4", 320. You do not want to be opposite of 6'4", 320. He's in shape. And that's what everybody keeps saying. And if you watched his interview that he did out of camp, that is one guy that I wouldn't want to hit in practice. I wouldn't want to hit, in a game. That's one guy, if I were JRP, I would be running for my life if he got loose. Because That man, that's a bad man. And he was an Auburn guy. He was a big 4-star recruit for Auburn, right? Came over last year, self-admittedly was a little out of shape. But he earned that starting spot. And from what I understand, he wanted that starting spot. It wasn't like when he went to Auburn where it was like, oh, I'm the big 4-star, big guy on campus. All I got to do is move people because I'm so big, which you can do in high school, but you can't do in college football, right?
Exactly.
He's coming in, so I'm excited to see him and backing him up. 6'4", 310-pound John Walker, right? Like that dude is gonna play on Sundays. That was our big get over Florida last year in the recruiting trail, and he's been after it too. Ricky Barber, 6'3", 295. That dude's built like a tank. It's like him and RJ Harvey, right? Those guys, you hit those guys. I mean, if you did Oklahoma drills, I know they don't do them anymore, but if you did Oklahoma drills, those are two guys I would not want to be on the other side of, right? And, real productive player. And then Matthew Alexander, he's a redshirt sophomore. He wasn't really a big name. We'll see how he pans out. Tremon Morris-Brash, 4-star, big name. When he came, I remember when he committed, that was a big deal for us. 6'2", 245. Again, a guy that was out of shape quite a bit. So I'm hoping he got his act together because he's a 5th-year senior this year. And I know he's got the talent to make it to the NFL if he keeps his conditioning up. Sean
He was
Peterson,
all first team last year. He was all conference first team last year. He's one of our best players on D last year.
Exactly. But he's got more. He's got more than what he showed.
Yeah, I think he's got more too.
I talked to some of the guys, and coming out of camp, he was still out of shape then. He was not in football shape the first few games of the season. So he's got more, and he got better throughout the year. And then, so, if you're an offensive line, who do you double team on that?
Our D line is going to be, I think, the best part of our defense. I mean, it's got all the returning guys from last year who were the top of it. And like you said, Lee Hunter elevated to starter, and you have John Walker coming in. And then Matthew Alexander wasn't a big name last year, but he was actually Pro Football Focus, our highest rated defensive player. When he got in, he got limited snaps. When he was in, he was really good. He was efficient. He was good. So I'm glad he made the 2 deep. I thought he deserved more playing time. So I think our D line is just stacked all over. I mean, you had a point last year where Seliscar was playing every single snap, which I think is unheard of for a defensive line not to have rotations, because we didn't have a 2 deep last year. It was just the 4 starters, and Ricky Barber couldn't play enough because he was out of shape. So this year, I think it's by far improved with the guys that are coming back, the guys who have coming in. I think it's going to be our best unit on defense.
I have a silly question. Was TJ Bullard recruited as a DB or a linebacker?
Linebacker.
Was it a linebacker?
Yeah.
Okay, because he's a will linebacker. For some reason, I thought he was a DB. But Jason Johnson coming back this year, Walter Yates, Ryan Davis, redshirt senior. That was a big name. He was from Georgia? I think he was from Georgia.
Yep. And he played there
too. Jordan Mask, I'm excited to see him. Braden Marshall. Now, the one guy that was making noise was Jarrah Wilson. He was the guy who played against us at ECU.
He had a pick against us.
Right, because he knew all the plays. But he had a pick against us, right? He came over to play with us. He's got some length. He's 6'3", 219. That's a big dude, right? And you've got. I'm surprised, but Quadric Bullard, he was placed over him. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, Bullard was injured a lot last year.
Huh?
Bullard was injured a lot. I think he only played 4 games last year. So, yeah, I'm surprised there too. But, I mean, he was good when he played. He was injured. Like, he pretty much missed his entire junior year for the most part last year.
Was that payback for running over Gus and breaking his leg?
Was that Bullard that did that?
Think so.
I didn't know that.
Pretty sure that was him.
So,
yeah, I didn't. Gus was in a tree stand. But all right, so that's, I think, covers the roster. Let's shake and bake like Ricky Bobby here, and let's talk about the schedule. So schedule, Alan, I'm gonna let you lead that. You got the schedule. A couple of points we want to make. Big 12 home game or best home games and away games. So run through the schedule for us. We'll pick the best home and away games to start.
Yeah, so we start out obviously this Thursday, if it doesn't get canceled, home game against Kent State to open up the year.
It's not getting canceled. I'm here and I have tickets. It's not happening.
All right. Let's hope not, right? And then we travel, go on the road for a tough one against Boise, who's going to be looking for revenge after we beat them a couple of years ago. Then we did you want me to run through the whole schedule before we talk on it, or is it one at a time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, let's do one at a time, I guess.
Okay.
I was going to talk about Kent State. Let's skip Kent State. We'll come back to that last. So Kent State, I think we all agree that it's a W, right? I mean, do we need to say anything else there? As long as the Hurricane doesn't cancel the game, they don't pull a Memphis where they show up on the tarmac and then turn the plane around because they're scared.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's a dub.
It's just like Troy. Kent's not a state, so yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's a dub.
All right. All right. So let's talk Boise. Let's talk Boise a little bit. The Smurf turf. What are they? Aren't they like Walmart or Kmart or something like that? Their stadium is named after one of those grocery store chains or something. Albertsons, there it is, Albertsons Stadium. So the Smurf turf. I assume we're gonna wear white so our receivers can be seen against the Smurf turf, and have the Boise folks, disappear into the blue. George O'Leary, for those of you who don't get that, used to say that we couldn't wear black because people couldn't see the players when they were running. So, so we play Boise. So, Alan, why don't you start off since you're on the big screen right now? What are your thoughts on Boise?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough game. I've always respected Boise. Before we got to the Power Five, I always said we should try to emulate what they do. They win 10 games every year. They win big bowl games. Obviously, we've surpassed them now in terms of conference stature, but they're an excellent program. They have a really good returning quarterback coming back, and they've only lost 39 games at home since 1986. So they're kind of similar to us, where they're a very good home team, very hard to beat inside their house. It's going to be a raucous crowd there. They have a good fan base. They have a really good returning offense. And then they're really excited about their new coach, Avalos, who used to play there. He's recruiting pretty well for them. So, I think it's a tough game. I don't circle that one just because we're in the Power 5, Power 4 now as a automatic win. I absolutely respect Boise as a program and the athletes that they get there. And, going on the road on the blue field where they rarely lose, it's going to be tough. I mean, I think we can win the game, but it's by no means an easy second out of conference game for us.
All right, Josh, why don't you pop your collar? Oh, wait, you can't. And tell us about your thoughts on Boise. Hey, I think I might be able to. Hold on, I'll do it for you. Ready?
Maybe.
Here we go. All right.
So here's the thing about Boise. They start versus Washington, and a couple of days after we play. So they don't have what should be an easy game, right? Their first game should be highly competitive. And I think we'll know a lot about that game because, Seattle to Boise is not that far of a trip as opposed to what we're doing. So I think we'll know a lot from that game. And hopefully we get to play our game. I agree with you, Roger. I think we're going to play that game. So I don't want to automatically chalk it up to, that's a win. I'd be a little surprised if it is like a 3-point game with 2 minutes going into the fourth quarter, right? I actually think it's going to be a highly competitive, but we outlast them type of win. I just really hope that the team gets to Idaho like 3 days ahead of schedule, perhaps because we are having our game 2 or 3 days before they do. So you get acclimated to the other coast. You have a little bit more time. You're physically there. That's what I'm really hoping for, especially if it's a 5 p.m. game, right? That 5 p.m. game is like 8 p.m. here. Yeah. I really hope that that's what's going on. I think this is going to be a win. I really think it's going to be more than a one score win.
We're not doing predictions. We're just talking about the schedule.
I think it will be a good game.
You're getting ahead of yourself. This is part of the show, just not yet.
Listen.
And remember,
I think it'll be a good
there
game.
are no coasts in Idaho. There are no coasts in Idaho. I think they're actually on the mountain. Aren't they on the mountain time zone? Not on the West Coast? I'm pretty sure they are.
Mountain.
Okay. Sorry. 7 p.m.
It's all good.
All good. Mountain.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Trey, what do you think about the Smurf Turf Warriors?
Oh, I mean, I think they're, like you said, they've always been a good program. Even since I was growing up, they've always been solid 10-win team. That's what they strive for, 10 wins and win their big bowl game. So I think they'll be a good opponent. I think we have gotten to a point where those are games that kind of just are kind of those test games to see where we're at early. I think Kent State we should beat handedly. I think this will be a good test for us to see, mentally where we're at, how we do with a little bit of adversity. But I think ultimately we are the better team. So I think we should handle it. But they're a really good program. They might not have the power for tag, but they were held in that regard, like how kind of we were previously as a program. They're well run, they recruit well, and those guys are playing and they put guys in the NFL. So I think they have to. I think they'll be a really good game for us.
Awesome, yeah. So for me. When I think about Boise, like they were first, they were kind of oh, hold on, Josh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrespect you. Let me put my collar back down. So, there's a few things when I think about Boise, right? So when we were in G5 land or G5 purgatory or group of 5 or other 5 or non-automatic 5 or whatever you want to call it, Boise was that program for a long time that we wanted to kind of emulate, right? In the sense that they were consistent winners and they were the giant killers before we became the giant killers, right? Cincy, you never got to giant killer status. You lost your playoff game. I'm sorry. That's my other hometown. My cousin works there, but Cincy, yeah, we're going to continue that rivalry into the Big 12. And you lost Luke Fickell, so it ain't happening. But anyway, they are a solid team. Now, last year, they were not playing well, and the Mountain West was weak. Fresno State was not a good team. They were a 10-win team, so I hesitate to say that, right? Because it's any 10-win team in D1 college football, you're doing something right. You're a solid team, right? Heck, we couldn't do it the last 2 seasons, right? Despite how many chances we had. So, but the Mountain West was not as good a conference as it has been in the past. The private chat's blown up. I'm afraid to see it. But they weren't as good. Now, Boise, at the end of the year, they started making some waves offensively. Their quarterback, they actually had their quarterback got hurt. They had another quarterback that came in. He played, I think, the last 3 or 4 games, did fairly well, but they lost their leading wide receiver. So I'm expecting us to take care of business. The only thing that I will say is I agree that game is going to be the litmus test for the rest of the season. And I also think it's going to be a litmus test to see if we got over the hump, because we did not do well when we played on the road last year, right? When we lost our games, they were on the road. We played well at home. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing for Boise next year. All right, Alan, what do we got? Or this year, sorry. And, oh, by the way, UCF, if it storms for Kent State, do not lock me outside of the stadium with lightning bolts again, like we did last year or the year before last when Boise came and played. I swear to God, my family, we were standing outside waiting to get into the cabana. They let a bunch of people in, and we were like 5 people from the cabana entrance, and then they shut down the stadium. Didn't tell anybody anything. There's lightning bolts going off. It's like, okay, so you're going to lock like 30,000 people outside of the stadium in the middle of a lightning storm because it's too dangerous to be in the stadium. Are you serious right now? Love UCF, but that was a terrible decision. Please don't do that again. All right. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, so why don't we I'll just read off the rest of the schedule and we can just say our best home and away game.
All right.
So so after Boise, we have FCS Villanova in Orlando. Then we play our much anticipated first Big 12 game against the defending champion, Big 12 champion Kansas State Wildcats. Then we have our first home Big 12 game against Baylor. And then we kind of yo-yo home away all season. We don't have back-to-back home games all year. So then we go away to Kansas, and then we go and play our friend DG in Oklahoma on the road there in Norman.
You mean
I was joking. Yeah, frenemy. Yeah. And then we return home for homecoming against West Virginia. Then we play our current rival, our only rival remaining, Cincinnati, on the road. Then Oklahoma State at home. We finish our conference road schedule against Texas Tech, and then finish the season against our old buddies of Houston Cougars.
Okay. So, Alan, best home game, best away game. What you got?
Best home game for me, West Virginia. It's homecoming. That's one of the few teams in the Big 12 we've actually played before. We played them twice. I think it's just a cool, historic school to play at home compared to Baylor, Oklahoma State. I think West Virginia is has some history, tradition. So I think that's a really cool homecoming matchup, considering we used to play Tulsa or Tulane on homecoming. So this is a big upgrade there. And then I'll say probably what everyone's going to say, but I mean, best away game is Oklahoma. I mean, how often do you get to play, your former quarterback who, really could only have happened this year? I mean, they're going to the SEC next year. He may graduate. So the fact that we get to play Mr. Sockman, Dylan Gabriel, when he thought he was
the proper term is sock boy.
Sock boy. When we thought, he probably thought he was never going to see us again. So to play them on the road when he's going to be facing a lot of his ex-teammates and a chance to beat him in Norman, I mean, that would be sweet. That just reminds me of when the Heat lost LeBron and I wanted to beat him all the time when we went back to the Cavs. So, he didn't have the best ending with us. So I think, that's the best road game in my opinion.
Okay. I'm going to say this with an asterisk, but I'm going to ask you this question. If we beat West Virginia at home, what do we burn?
What do we burn?
Since West Virginia can't burn couches anymore, what do we burn in Orlando to celebrate wins over West Virginia?
I don't want to burn anything for celebrating win over West Virginia. I think they had 4 wins last year, so I don't know how excited we should get for that.
Oh, they're not worth a burn. That's a burn about a burn. That's what that is. Yeah. So, all right, awesome.
S'mores, man.
All right, let's bring Josh Lazar in. Josh,
sure.
Lizzie, what do you think?
We can burn marshmallows if they're that easy now. Just popping on the floors. So home game. To me, it's a toss-up. I feel like I want it to be Oklahoma State, mainly because we kind of have this interesting history with them, but not, right? We're very loud, vocal fan bases. Gundy is Gundy, right? I want it to be, right? I want it to be Oklahoma State, so I'm just going to stick with Oklahoma State, right? I'm going to say the away game. I think Oklahoma is the obvious one. I think Kansas State's going to be very interesting because we do have a little bit of history there. They are the reigning champions. It is our first actual Big 12 game. If you're a fan old enough, you might remember the very dark clouds over the stadium game we never got to play. I think maybe it's because I'm going to be there, but I really think that's going to be big too. Because I mean, if you look at who's ranked preseason, which are worth nothing in my opinion, they're ranked higher than Oklahoma, and I think Oklahoma's. I'm not sure if they're going to be as good as expected. We'll see. Maybe I'll eat my words later, but I actually think Kansas State is the highlight for me on the away games as they stack up. Maybe with the second with Texas Tech because we're having our tortilla fight. I don't know.
All right. So that's the home game. What about away? Or Texas Tech is the away? I'm sorry.
No. Home game. Home
playing
game
away
is
at
Oklahoma
Texas
State.
Tech this
Yeah.
year.
The states. Oklahoma actually a state, so is Kansas.
Wow. Okay. All right. Trey Neal, what are your thoughts on this?
I think for me at least, the Oklahoma game will probably be I'm going to say it from the player's perspective, just because Oklahoma, you kind of grew up knowing that program, the tradition, kind of the pageantry you've seen, like, the OU Texas rivalry. I grew up with those games. So I think as a player, that would probably be the coolest one to kind of see that stadium. And then, there might be a little bit of, I don't know if it's bad blood, but there's a little something there just with DG being able to play him again. Those guys that were his teammates. Of course you're going to get up for it. That's going to be a fun game. And again, like I said, you get to go to that stadium and play. So I think that's the away game. Mine home game, I think, will be the Baylor game. Because I like what Dave Aranda does, just with his program so far. And schematically, I like the things that he does to give problems. So I think that one will be a big test for me to see where JRP is as a quarterback, because I think Dave Aranda is going to throw a lot of stuff at him. I mean, he runs a lot of NFL-like stuff, so I think that's one of those things where you're going to see, is JRP going through his reads? Is he making the right decisions? Or is he flustered? Or is he taking advantage and is he doing it? I think that's going to be one of my barometers early in the year to be like, all right, this kid, he's taking that next step, or are we worried about him being able to take that next step? So I think those are the two ones for me that I'm looking forward to.
All right. Do you think he takes the rapid fire? Do you think he takes the step?
I think he does, because I want him to. I'm not really around it to where I've had any insight or anything. I just think that just with my experience, year 2, everything slows down. Everything it seems so much slower. It makes a lot more sense so that you can take that next step. The little things that might have sped you up or confused you last year, those things are like second nature to you this year. So I think just this past year of him going through the ups and downs, it's good. We hated it during the time. But now that we're a year away from it, a year removed, I think this is where he takes that step, just being year 2 and being comfortable in the system.
Awesome. All right. So for me, favorite away game, I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to say OU as well. Just simply because Texas was scared. They didn't want to play us this year. They wanted to stay off our schedule. They opened up our stadium in 2007. Should have lost had it not been for a rainstorm. I don't know what it is with this Florida weather. But that game, for those of you that don't remember, we were winning. And then they got lucky. We had a rainstorm that stopped play for about an hour or so. They got to reset, and they won the game. So OU's a big name. They're going to the SEC. I think everybody in the Big 12 is rooting for everybody else to beat OU in Texas this year. Oklahoma right now is ranked number 20. And obviously, for the players, to play at OU Stadium, that's one of the storied football programs in college football. So I got to imagine for them, that's one of the places you want to play. You only get, a fixed number of games to play. So, playing in that stadium is awesome. I'm also going to say, and I know, Josh, you like K-State. For me, for the away game, so I'm going to give you two answers. One is I'm probably going to be at Cincinnati this year, and I'll be there with my cousin who went there and is also used to work with the athletic department there. So I'm looking forward because they've been extremely loud ever since this this playoff run, which they lost. So I don't know why there's such a big, so much noise around it. But I look forward to beating them at home at Nippert. And then just for the Big 12, I'm really looking forward to Baylor as well. I think there is some opportunity to spark a rivalry there. Oklahoma State's going to be really cool. They're a good program, but they lost a lot last year. They lost a ton in the transfer portal. Like 3/4 of their roster. So I'm not as excited about them. I am excited about Baylor. because I feel like, after 2013, there's an opportunity there to kind of rekindle that relationship. And so I got ship goals when it comes to Baylor. So let's make that happen.
Cool.
Agree.
All right. So now that we got that knocked out, the next thing is Big 12 expectations. What are we expecting for our first year in the Big 12, folks? Josh?
I want to see wins. I want to see solid play. We talked about that when you were trying to figure out.
Don't straddle the fence. That's a specific question. Come on now. It's binary.
What, you want a record? You already told me I can't do
what
a
are
record.
Your expectations? Like, what are your expectations? Everybody expects wins, but how many,
My expectation is to be competitive in almost every game. We'll probably slip up in one where it's like, what is this? We'll probably have one of those. I'm guessing 6 wins. 6 wins in conference.
6 wins. All right. So bowl game season. Is that
no, not overall. Overall, I'm thinking 8+, but I think in conference is going to be about 6 wins. Probably I'm couching it. I think it's 5. I'll be optimistic 6. Anything over 6 is gravy, because I think if we get over 6 wins, then we'll get over 10 wins for the season. It's not an easy schedule, and we just don't know what we're up against, right? I mean, we have an idea of, does the O-line gel? Is JRP available all the time, right? I feel comfortable in the defense. I think most of our ones are going to be solid. Most of our 2s probably are, but there is a drop-off in the quarterback area. Maybe Rizek rises, maybe Timmy does too. I don't know, but I feel like it's 8+, and we have a good shot at getting to 10. That's fair.
That's fair. Absolutely. Good breakdown. Thank you. All right, Alan.
Yeah,
what are your expectations?
My Big 12 expectations are 4 to 5 wins. Realistically, I think we have an inside track with our home Big 12 schedule. It sets up real nicely in terms of who we play. A lot of teams last year that were at 500 or slightly under. I think what puts us over the edge at home is that how fired up our home crowd is going to be. I think the energy this year is going to be on a different level, and we've shown how well we play at home just in general. And when you put a fired up, sold out crowd, I think we're going to be either 1 loss or undefeated at home, but I don't think we're going to do that well on the road. Personally, the 3 games that we are the underdog are Kansas State, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech on the road. I mean, we lost to Navy last year and gave up 39 to USF, and we've consistently lost 2 or 3 conference games in the American the last 3 years. And I know the team has improved, but I'm not just going to expect that we come in and, beat down the Big 12 right away. So I always take a level-headed approach, and I feel 4 to 5 wins, I think, is where we get, with most of them coming at home. But I do think we pull off one big upset, whether that's Oklahoma or Kansas State. But on the flip side, I think there's going to be a game that we expect to win and we end up losing. It seems to happen under Gus pretty consistently.
You mean like Louisville or Georgia Tech?
Right, like Louisville or
we beat Georgia Tech.
Navy, Navy, ECU. I mean, you can go back every season and find one.
No. ECU, we get a pass. They had our playbook.
Well, yeah.
You can't use that one. Can't use that one.
Well, either way, I mean, under Gus, even in 2021, that first year, there was plenty, Louisville that year, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's always some Tulsa. I mean, there's always a loss. So, I mean, so yeah, I'm expecting 4 to 5 conference wins, and being right there at the middle of the pack, maybe lower or upper middle if best case. And I think we're going to be competitive in every game and show that. And I think we're going to be by far the best of the newcomers, of the 4 newcomers, and have the best record of our 4. But I'm expecting, like a 4 to 5 win conference year.
Awesome. All right, Trey. Since we've heard from the voice of reason, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was telling them earlier, as a player, I mean, I expect us to win every game. I think that's just the mentality you have. I don't think any team is unbeatable. I don't think any team is just like one of those teams that just come back and you're just like, all right, this is gonna be a tough one. How teams used to look at us coming back from when we were playing. I don't think there's a team like that. But again, taking my player hat off, I expect every game. I think we should win a lot of the games. So I say 5-6 wins. And then some of those road games, I just don't want it to be a blowout. I think we should be able to prove that, we can beat you guys just, for whatever reason we didn't. But optimistically thinking, to me, when I saw Mackenzie Milton take that year 1 to year 2 jump, I felt like we'd win every game. And we knew it day one. It wasn't just, we had to wait to see games. We saw it, on the field that first game versus FIU. We're like, all right, this kid's taking that step. Like, I think we can go all the way.
I think if we see that against Maryland. You saw flashes against Maryland for him. I remember that game. I was there. Other than the fumbles,
exactly.
We were good.
And I think that's the same thing for me, at least with JRP. I think we've seen flashes. And now knowing that he was told, hey, you got one read, check down, scramble, he did pretty well for just being that's your offense. So I think if he's able to take that next step, which I think we're going to see early versus Kent State, if he's able to go through those progressions, I think that, I don't think it's out of the realm that we kind of do 7-8 wins. I think we play 9 conference games. I think we can win it, besides, hopefully as we've gotten older, the kind of slip mishap games. Being a senior-laden team, we don't have those. Those games where you just kind of let it slip under the radar and you kind of overlook it. That's what I think would be a next step too. I think if we can do that, I wouldn't be surprised if we won all of our games. I know that's optimistic, but I expected it. If JRP can take that step and the defense plays to their potential, I think it's very possible. I don't think the Big 12 is just like, walking to play Alabama or Georgia. I don't think we have that in this conference. I think everybody's beatable. I think we're plenty talented enough to go run the table.
And I do think because we don't have Texas and TCU on the schedule, that kind of
helps too.
Yeah, it changes that dynamic, because my first instinct is, we got probably about 8 or 9 potentially. Yeah. If we have those two on the schedule, I don't think any of us are thinking that.
Bro, Texas is like Miami. Until they prove they're back, they ain't back. So I'm not gonna say anything. They get all these players every year. They got all this money. Until they prove that they're back, they're just a paper tiger, just like Miami. So that's what I think about Texas.
I agree. We just don't have a good track record versus either. So far, might be a little different now. But I agree with you there.
Yeah. So, all right. So, when I'm thinking about this, a couple things kind of jump out to me. Tortilla Tech is one. Texas Tech. I know people. We're going in the Big 12. I'll call it Tortilla Tech. You guys throw tortillas. You have a bell ringer. I mean, it's going to happen. Anybody who has not seen a Texas Tech GIF with a bell ringer, go Google that now. That being said, the other one that I'm really worried about, actually, I was worried at the beginning about Oklahoma State, but I'm more worried about Kansas. And here's the reason why I'm worried about Kansas. And that seems like an oxymoron. Nobody saw Lance Leopold except for Andrew from Nightline on what he was going to do at Kansas. They've got a great dynamic quarterback, and it's early in the season. So he's not going to be as beat up because he's only 5 in. He's a running quarterback. He's got a good arm. He was doing big things at Kansas until he got hurt last year. Kind of like the JRP kind of story, right? He's dynamic. He's quick. I saw him play Arkansas, played really well against Arkansas last year. I watched that game. That's one I'm kind of worried about. And Lance Leopold has won everywhere he's been. So, Andrew, if you're listening, yes, I'm talking up Kansas for some god-awful reason. I don't know. I'm a little worried about them this year, which sucks because I'd really hate to lose against Kansas because of Andrew, the first year that we played them, because they've stuck for so long, because I'll never hear the end of it. Still love you, Andrew. That being said, if I'm looking at this, in-game conference, I'm expecting 5 wins. is what my expectation is, with a possibility of 2 that will go either way. So I'm going to say 5 to 7 wins in conference, right? Out of conference, we got Kent State. So like I said earlier, here we got Villanova. So if we get 5 wins, we got 7 wins at least, right? Potentially 8 wins if we beat Boise. So for the season, I'm going to say anywhere from 7 to 9 wins for the season, which I think is a success. I think that's a success for our first season. It's actually a lot better. I was hoping for bowl eligible. I think this team and everything I've heard, I've said all along 2 to 3 years for us to contend for the championship, but that may be a 2-year based on this crazy recruiting that we've been doing lately. So if we can have consistency, and that O-line continues to gel, I think we're in good shape. All right, last thing on this topic, then we're going to work into week 1 predictions and Kent State, which is our last topic for the evening. Favorite opponent food. So if you think about the Big 12 conference, what are you looking forward to eat? For what these schools are known for, and don't say tortillas. So Josh, I'm going to go with you first. It's not Taco Tuesday.
Yeah, mine's easy because I'm going to the Little Apple. At the Little Apple, before we get down to Manhattan, we're going to be flying into Kansas City. So in Kansas City, I'm always going to Joe's. And if I cannot wait in line to be nice, but maybe Arthur Bryant's. It's barbecue all day, every day.
So hold on. Is every restaurant in Kansas City like just a first name only? You said Joe's, you said Brian's. I mean,
well, the Arthur Bryant's, that's 2 names, but it's Jack Stacks. There's lots of names in there, Slaps and Char, and in actual Manhattan, Kansas. So when I first did the search, the first thing that popped in was Olive Garden. Like, no, this can't be right. No, I mean, I understand Manhattan, Kansas is in the middle of Kansas, but no, or kind of Western, but whatever. So there's this thing called Bourbon and Baker, which is an American bar, good for duck fat fries. That sounds like the place I'm going to have some food at some point when I'm in Manhattan. And they have the Little Apple Brewing Company that'll probably be on the menu, if you will.
All right, Trey, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with if they're going to Kansas this year, I'm gonna have to go with the barbecue too up in Kansas City. That was probably the best barbecue that I had ever had. Honestly, in my life, probably. And I'm a Georgia boy. So I was very surprised. Yeah, I was very surprised how good.
So hold on. Are you still giving Andrew props? I see. I mean, what's going on with that? He used to tell us about how good it was.
Listen, I can't lie to you. It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I ordered, I think it was barbecue ribs and some barbecued I think it was barbecue chicken. It was amazing. I was just caught off guard too. But my first time having it, I thought it was great. So that's what I would do. If you're making the trip to the game in Kansas, I'd definitely make a stop in Kansas City and get some of that barbecue.
All right. Alan, what are you thinking?
So my dad is from Memphis, born and raised there. So we've actually been to a couple of UCF Memphis games together in Memphis, and I went up there a couple times growing up. And obviously Memphis does barbecue as well, like a lot of southern states. Yeah. So we always went to this place called Rendezvous, and it's been around since the 50s. So that was my spot. I don't remember how close it is to Memphis's stadium, but it's right there downtown, and it's that was my spot.
So Memphis, we don't play them.
Oh, I thought you just said favorite opponent in general. I thought you were talking about.
No. Just like in the conference.
Oh, my bad. Out of all of the ones that are on that list, I have not been to any of those road games, but or any of those games. Obviously, I'm going up to Oklahoma's game this year, so hopefully I don't think I'll find too much good food there, but we'll see. But I would say barbecue. I mean, I'm sure like Kansas City, Kansas has great barbecue, so if it's as good as Memphis is, then I'm sure it'll be good. So I would say probably there, but I don't know any like restaurants or anything.
It's a little different, like Corky's and Rendezvous, definitely more on the dry rub, but also quite good. Kansas is definitely not
Wet.
dry.
No, yeah.
It's saucy.
No, I'm all about
a lot of sauce.
I'm all about the dry rub, right? So that's just my personal opinion on ribs. You know what I mean? Now, I'm going to, like Alan, I haven't been to many of these locations, so I can't give, because who goes to Manhattan, Kansas for business? I mean, I don't. Right. So I'm in SoCal, I'm in Texas. Yeah, you know, I'm never there. So I will say this. I will tell you some suggestions from a place that I've spent a lot of time at because my family's there, and that's Cincinnati. So for food, Jack Ruby's Steakhouse, can't go wrong with that. It's really, really, really good. If you want a good steak, if you want a really good appetizers, great place to go. And then if you want a good place to hang out, go to Rheingeist. It's in Over the Rhine, which is the revitalized part of Cincinnati with the old buildings. So they actually took a 4-story building, brick building, and made it into a brewery. So there's a 4-story giant vat that's there, and they have a rooftop, and on the other level they have like beer areas, and then in the middle you can play like wiffle ball and whatever. So it's a really cool spot to drink beer, hang out, and you know, I know people are gonna hate me for this, but you know, give me a little Skyline whenever I get home.
I have been there.
Yeah, and I don't care. I'll eat Gold Star too. I like it too. But I kind of grew up with it. Give me the hot dogs, the chili dog, right? That's really what I like to go with is a nice chili dog with about 7 pounds of shredded cheese on it. So, yeah, that last one is not necessarily a pinky in the air kind of food place. That's your in and out of Cincinnati, right? So, all right, so we've got that covered. Last thing on the agenda, and man, it's not just the Monster Energy drink that I've been drinking during the show, but I'm super stoked. My hopium, my excitedness poured into my veins. It's football season. Week 1 predictions versus Kent State. Feels so good to say that. So super excited about that. So just a little bit of background before we talk about it. 1, the series is tied 2-2, as I mentioned before. We did share the MAC conference for like a couple of years. We actually played them in 1997, beat them 59-43. So that was right after we went to D1. Then we played them again in 2002. We beat them 32-6. 2003 happened, and we lost 36-16. And then 2004 happened, and we lost 41-24. So we owe them not quite a 62-12 butt whooping, but we do owe them. So they have the thing to kind of think about and to know about Kent State. Brand new head coach, Kenny Burns. All their coaching staff is turned over. They lost a lot of their players to the transfer portal because the coaching staff, right? So this team is very inexperienced. It's very young, and it's got a brand new coaching staff. If we don't run over them with our 2s, I'm going to be upset. So that's where I'm going to leave it at that. I did listen to his interview. He's a disciple of PJ Fleck and Lance Leopold, which is pretty awesome. Those are 2 really good names in the coaching circles. But it's Kent State. He's got a young team, and he even said he's got to rebuild. And I think he watched the UCF press conference, and when he was asked, what is UCF like, I think he watched the UCF press conference and just repeated what was said. So it was pretty interesting. They also are prepared for the impending hurricane, believe it or not. He actually said several months before they did drills on what to do if the storm is, you know, happens and they have to delay the game, move the game, you know, cancel the game, you know, whatever. So they actually did that, which is kind of crazy. A team from Ohio, right, did that in their prep work for us. So that tells you what kind of record we have on Labor Day weekend, like games. So they're ready. I don't know if UCF was even as prepared as what he is for what's going on, because it's almost unbelievable at this point. All right, so for Kent State, what are your keys to the game? And give me a score prediction. The line, by the way, as of right before the show, which is on Monday night?
Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night was UCF by 37. So, Josh, keys to the game for you, and what do you got to score?
So to me, it's getting your mind in the game. I know it's the first game. I know the opponent has almost no one from last year and has a new coach, but keeping your mind right? So the wise part of the healthy, wealthy, and wise, because sometimes there are teams that don't think about who their opponent is. I don't think this is going to be that. This isn't going to be an Appalachian State, Michigan situation, but you have to do everything possible to make sure your mind is right. I that's it. I think everyone is going to have an injury-free game. I feel like we're going to get the twos in by maybe the third quarter, maybe the fourth quarter. We'll see. I'm if you want my score now.
No, we're waiting on that.
You don't want me to go
we're waiting on that. So I just wanted you thinking about it. I wanted it percolating.
Keep your focus on the person right in front of you and the next play and the next sequence. That's really the key, because there's a reason why people know Michigan versus Appalachian State, right? This is not going to be that.
Dude, this ain't App State. So
this ain't that,
all right. All right, Trey Neal, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, mine would just be keep it simple. It's the first game of the season. I know everybody's antsy, ready to show off what they've been doing over the offseason, what they've gotten good at, if they've gotten a little bigger, that's just a part of it. But you want to keep it simple, because not only do you want to keep it simple because you're playing Boise next week, so you don't want to show everything. You don't want to play your whole deck of hand or your deck of cards this week. You want to be good at these simple things. I think the best teams, to me, execute the simple things at the best. You can get fancy all you want, but on 3rd and 1, can we just go get 1 yard? Can we play smash mouth football and get a yard? On 3rd and 10, can we go, play man coverage and lock up the other team? I think it's those simple things that, breed championship teams. So I think they just need to keep it simple: run, tackle, hit, execute. And, I think if you can do that, then that's all you have to do, especially week 1. Right now is just more so shaking the jitters off. You haven't hit anybody of another opponent in almost, 8 months, 9 months. So get those jitters out the way and then just go have fun. So if you keep it simple, I think that'll be easy for them.
You mean don't forget to tackle, like we've had the last, three seasons where people start the season off and they've forgotten completely how to tackle? Okay.
Yeah, they see the
so donut drills. Roll those donuts.
They see the other team and they're like, "Oh, how am I supposed to tackle you? I haven't tackled you, all summer."
Yeah, I'm just gonna grab your jersey and run with you and drag you down, but it didn't work out. Okay.
Exactly. So keep it simple.
All right, Alan.
I always have the same key to the game when you play a team like Kent State or like an FCS team or a team that's clearly inferior to us, which is step on their throats early. Anytime you give a team that's worse than you hope and keep them in the game, they drag. We saw with the USF game last year that we had to win on a last second touchdown. So not that, they're the same, but for me, it's step on them early.
No,
and I think
USF last year might've been worse.
Well, we only beat them by a touchdown, so that just tells you that. But I would say is impose our will physically. Obviously, we're a bigger team, a bigger, stronger, faster team. So, don't give them any life. Take them out early, and hopefully we could start to see some of these second and third string guys by the third quarter, get them some repetitions for if guys miss some time later on in the year, they'll have some valuable experience. So for me, it's that. And yeah, like Trey said, I don't want to show them too much with Boise State coming next week. So for me, it's just show up, step on them early, impose your will on them and get out there healthy, get out of there healthy.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying how, do you want these guys in the third quarter? When we were playing these kind of games, we want to be done by halftime, man. We want our young guys in. We want to be able to, take off our pads in the halftime and come back out in jerseys, That's the mentality we would do. So it goes into, like you said, attack them and just step on their throat early just because you want to handle your business and also staying healthy with that, The longer you let it go on, the more you allow your starters in. And you don't want to have an incident where you have a starting player get hurt like we have had.
Damn more.
Yeah, lingering in games. And this is like you said, we have, like I think you said, the most seniors in any Big 12 team. These guys, they've been through it. They know what to do. They just got to handle business, get on the field, get off the field. I want to see those young guys in. I want them to play a lot. I want to see what they can do. So definitely they should be done before halftime, in my opinion.
All right. So I know, I've been making jokes. I've been cracking jokes, but I don't want to be disrespectful to the Kent State players. Hey, look, you're D1 football players. You're playing in the MAC. Congratulations. You made it further than I did. Those kids still put in the work every week and do the academics, and they do it with less than what the UCF players do. They have less equipment. They have less rooms. They have less support, and they do it every week. So with all that being said, I do think the key to the game is that the Hurricane stays out in the Gulf, because outside of that, I mean, as far as the key to the win, that's about the only thing that could stop the win. Now, that being said, what do we want to get out of the win, right? To your point, Trey, and everybody else, work on fundamentals, get those guys out that are freshmen out there. Make sure they got their hands in the right place. Make sure they're blocking properly. Make sure their footwork works in a game speed environment, right? It's one thing to do it in practice. It's another thing to do it against an opponent who's trying to counter that. So, getting game film out there for them on technique while being vanilla is important, right? Don't get your players hurt. If you have somebody out there, don't leave them out there too long. Again, I agree. Don't pull a Bam Moore. And then secondly, just get a few licks in. It's every season, you play a long season and it's a long season, but you kind of get used to it. You got to get used to getting hit again. So, and hitting people again, right? So make sure we get that technique right so that we're ready for Boise when we take over the Smurf turf. So that's my keys to the game for this week. Kent State's coach seems like a nice guy. I hope he does well. It's not going to be this week. So with that being said, score predictions. Alan, let's swing it back to you.
I'm going with 52-14, the good guys.
Well, I hope that was the good guys. I don't think anybody's picking the bad guys this week. All right. Good score prediction. That reminds me of Trey's teams, which, by the way, Frost had a different mentality about all of that stuff. Like he didn't take his foot off the throat until it was like 40 points difference. Gus is not that guy. If they start going up big on them, they'll put the third stringers in because they don't want to embarrass the guys for a paycheck. So Gus is just different that way. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see a 63-0 type game. Or what was it against? We had 72 to something against one team.
Yeah, I think it was 70 something. It was Austin P. I remember that.
Yeah, it was
Austin. They put up 70. I mean,
but they put a certain amount of points on you guys too. I was disappointed.
It was like 70-35.
That was a bad week of practice.
I could imagine.
And all right, we didn't really just kind of going back. They brought so much stuff that we hadn't practiced, but that kind of locked us back in. We kind of got a little bit of the big head, but that kind of brought us back down to earth. Like, hey, you guys can lose. So,
well, all right. So going back to Josh, what do you think?
So I actually was right there with Alan. My head was about 52-17 actually, and that's not me riffing off. I actually wrote it down. I should have wrote it down elsewhere, but I was thinking I was thinking that we're going to get about 6 or 7-ish, but to me, it really depends on the third quarter. Like if we get 50 Burger up, because I feel like if Timmy gets in and can actually start cooking a little bit, then I think that's where we start getting to the 50s. I actually think Kent State's going to score at least twice. And it might be more like realistically like a 52 to like maybe 13. But I'm thinking give them 2 scores and a field goal sometime in the third, fourth quarter.
I'm going to throw you a wrench because you brought up Timmy. Timmy's going to come into this game, and he's the type of quarterback that does well in a game, not so well in practice. So if he throws the ball all around the yard after JRP sits, are we going to have another Mikey Keene versus JRP situation here?
No.
Yeah, I think this is I don't think that one's going to happen unless JRP gets hurt. Yeah. I think this is his team. I think Gus kind of knows that. He doesn't want to have any of these deals with like he did last year. Who should I play? All that. I think it's JRP's team, and we're riding it till the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
All right. He was doing that last year too. Trey, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think with the running clock now, I think it'll be a little bit low scoring. I think we get 49. I'm going to say the 3. I'm a defensive guy. I don't want Kent State scoring any points. I know inevitably they probably will, but, I think if the defense plays to how I think they can play, I don't think they're going to score, but maybe off a 3 points, So I'm going to say 49-3. Good guys.
Okay, so Trey, you're killing me, Smalls. Trey,
what was your final one? What was it? Sorry.
49-3. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to make this fast and dirty because we're coming up on 2 hours. I'm going to say 52-10.
Good one.
So the reason why I'm going to say 52-10 is I think we pull our first stringers pretty early, and we're going to let the second and third stringers go out. When the third stringers start hitting, that they're just running the ball, right? So if the problem for Kent State is we got the running back room that we do. So all of our oars are like 4 and 5 star players.
Yeah.
So that's why I say 52-10 on that. So that's my prediction for this week. We'll check in and see how we did next week. All right. That's going to do it for the first show. I want to thank the guys for joining me. I thank the viewers for following along with us. Thank you guys for picking up the baton when the internet said bye-bye. And hopefully, that won't happen in the future. But hey, this was a lot of fun. It was great getting back on the bicycle again. I'm excited about watching football, talking football, analyzing football, being upset over football, whatever happens this season. I'm just excited that we're going to be P4, and I hope to goodness that we beat Kansas so that I can talk a lot of smack, because Andrew and I already have a rivalry over the Chiefs and the Bengals. So now we may be adding a Kansas UCF rivalry onto it as well. So thank you all. Looking forward to next week. Have a great week and charge on.
Charge on.
Bye, everyone.